the UFC is where we want to watch men go at each other full force. We want to see competitive fights. We want to see them to go out and put on a banger. We don't want to see somebody put on a 5-round schooling. Okay, that's not the definition of the best fight in the UFC. And we're going over the top 5 best fights of 2024. There were so many good fights this year, so I'm definitely going to miss some on this list, but I've thought of the 5 best fights, equally matched fights, where both men were going back and forth, and I've put them 5-1 on how good the fight was. Okay, we've numbered it, and let's just talk about it now. Gaethje versus Holloway has no business being anywhere near the top 5 because Max Holloway schooled Justin Gaethje for 5 rounds. Justin Gaethje got a knockdown in the 4th round. Other than that, Max Holloway was schooling him the whole time. And I'm sorry for not uploading a video for so long, but it's time, okay? It's the Insomnia MMA Awards. Welcome 2024. We're going to close it out. We're going to give all the awards in these couple next days. The first awards we're going to give is Best Fight of the Year. Let's get straight into it. You know it's not a top 5 without the honorable mention. And you know this might be a little controversial, but this is just what I think. Honorable mention, Dustin Poirier versus Islam Makhachev. Okay, a great fight, but the reason I put this in honorable mention is because Islam Makhachev was dominating most of this fight. Let me just say that. The parts where Dustin Poirier was doing good is when he was stuffing the takedowns, but for majority of the fight, Islam was comfortably up 3 rounds going into that last round where he got the submission. And, you know, other than that, it was a great fight. Let me just say that. It was back and forth at times, but I just feel like Islam Makhachev was just showing that he was a step above Dustin Poirier the whole time. When I think of a good fight, I think of them just going back and forth the whole time, like a war. And I feel like the 5 fights that I have in my top 5 will fit this criteria. Okay, so let's get straight into the top 5. But the honorable mention definitely gets its rightful place, as it deserves. Islam Makhachev versus Dustin Poirier. And it's probably carried a little bit by the fact that it is a championship fight. Okay, no. It was a good fight. It was a great fight. But I'm just saying that I feel like Islam Makhachev was dominating most of the time. But let's get into the real top 5. In the 5th spot, we have Khalil Rountree versus Alex Pereira. Going into this fight, everybody was like, Khalil Rountree's going to get killed by Alex Pereira. Khalil Rountree lost to Dustin Jacoby, okay, who just recreated the Kamaru Usman knockout. We're going to do top 5 knockouts too, so stay tuned. But Khalil Rountree versus Alex Pereira, the first 2 rounds, it was not looking good for Alex Pereira. We were like, what the hell? Khalil Rountree's going out there and putting a masterclass of Muay Thai on for us right now. He dropped Alex Pereira in that 2nd round. It was looking a little crazy. Khalil was looking so good. It was really back and forth for those first couple of 3 rounds. But then you can just tell that Alex Pereira, in that 4th round, he really dig deep, and he was like, oh my god, he brutalized Khalil Rountree in that 4th round. It was such a good fight leading up to that. They were going back and forth the whole time. It was just like Muay Thai versus kickboxing in the purest form. It was amazing. It was beautiful. It was violent. Everything you want in a good striking match was there. And I feel like Khalil Rountree versus Alex Pereira, you know, it was way more back and forth than Islam Makhachev versus Dustin Poirier. It was way more competitive than that fight for sure. So that's why I feel like it deserves a spot in the top 5. And, you know, I'm picking the fights that had me jumping out of my couch, okay? That had me dillying and dallying like a little girl, screaming at my TV. And I feel like Alex Pereira versus Khalil Rountree was definitely one of those fights. But it definitely deserves its spot in the top 5. In the 5th spot though, because Alex Pereira did dominate later in the fight. Okay, he was dominating later in the fight, but let's keep going. We got 4 more spots left. Let's get into the 4th spot. I got Joshua Van versus Edgar Chairez. So if you know me, you know that I love Joshua Van. Okay, you know I love Joshua Van. And this fight, oh my god. Speak about back and forth fight. This is such a back and forth fight. Joshua Van would piece up Edgar Chairez, and then Edgar Chairez would throw a goddamn spinning back fist and just stun Joshua Van. It was crazy back and forth. You know, UFC Noche just had some bangers on it. There was a lot of bangers on that card. And Joshua Van versus Edgar Chairez was amazing. You know, I love Joshua Van. Okay, I'm a big fan of Joshua Van. And Edgar Chairez is entertaining too. I like Edgar Chairez too. But in the flyweight division, I really love Joshua Van. and his boxing is just amazing. This fight was so back and forth. One guy would get a knockdown, the other guy would get a knockdown. The one guy, like, it was crazy. It was crazy back and forth. Just such an entertaining fight to watch. And I feel like Joshua Van just has these type of performances. Okay, that's why I love watching Joshua Van. He goes out there with his nice boxing. Edgar Chairez he wasn't out there getting punked either. He was going back and forth with Joshua Van, and it was just a sick fight in general. Okay, let's just say that. One guy, like, it was crazy. One guy would get a knockdown, the other guy, like, literally. And they were literally going to war for, like, the whole time. Literally the whole time. If you want to, all of these fights on this list, you guys gotta watch, because they're all bangers. And I've put them in the order of how good I think they are. And I think Edgar Chairez versus Joshua Van was way more competitive than Khalil Rountree versus Alex Pereira, in my opinion. Okay, that's why I think it deserves its 4th spot. But I feel like that's the perfect position for it. In the 4th spot, Joshua Van versus Edgar Chairez. A goddamn banger. A banger. Let's get into the top 3, though. Let's get into the top 3. This is where it starts getting a little bit more interesante, okay? Interesante. You guys might disagree with my list, but I think I put up a pretty solid top 5 fights of the year list. In the number 3 spot, I got Brandon Royval versus Tatsuro Tyra. Amazing main event. Way more amazing than I initially thought it was going to be. I thought it's either going to be, Brandon Royval hitting Tatsuro Tyra with pitter-pat jabs the whole time, or Tatsuro Tyra just take down and sub Brandon Royval right away. That's what I thought about that fight initially. But watching it at UFC Vegas, oh my god. Brandon Royval on the feet. He would, like, school Tatsuro Tyra, and then Tatsuro Tyra would go get a takedown and just start schooling Brandon Royval on the ground. Like, it was crazy. Tatsuro Tyra has some of the best grappling in the UFC. I feel like he was handling Brandon Royval on the floor better than Pantoja was at times. And moving forward, Tatsuro Tyra, he's going to be a problem in that flyweight division. That with that performance he just put on Brandon Royval, even though he lost, he just needs to work on that striking defense a little bit, work on that striking a little bit, and I feel like he could be a champion in this division. But this fight really showed me that, because Brandon Royval, he's been around the block in the flyweight division. He's fought champions after champions in the flyweight division. He's fought everybody in the flyweight division almost. And, Tatsuro Tyra gave him one of his toughest fights, even though Brandon Royval did end up with the dub. Tatsuro Tyra was not out there getting punked. He would, his grappling is on a different level. Brandon Royval would stun Tatsuro Tyra, and then Tatsuro Tyra would grab a single leg. It was just a sick fight. Definitely one that you guys should rewatch. If high-level grappling, high-level striking, just 2 flyweights going at it, okay? 2 flyweights. You know that those memes they always have, 2 flyweights fighting on a random fight night, just going to absolute war. This fight is the definition of that. Even though it was a title eliminator, not on the prelims, but still, this fight is the goddamn definition of that, because this fight was so good. Oh my god. This fight is really an MMA fight. It wasn't just like Khalil Rountree versus Alex Pereira, them just going at it, throwing hands. It was like takedowns, it was striking, it was everything. Okay, it was everything. Takedown defense, everything was in. You can get a little taste of everything from MMA from this fight. But it definitely deserves a spot in the top 3. I don't see a lot of people putting this in their list, but I think this fight is slept on. I think this is definitely a top 3 fight from the year. When I was watching it, I was like, damn, this might be fight of the year. But let's get into the top 2. Okay, let's get into the top 2. In the 2nd spot, we got Mateusz Rebecki versus Mayatek Orolbai. Oh my god. I do not know how Mayatek Orolbai is still alive after that 3rd round. Okay, he was the initially in the 1st round, let's just break it down easily. Initially in the 1st round, Rebecki hit Mayatek Orolbai with a shot that stunned him and shut his eye. Okay, he shut his eye. He shut the caveman's eye. That eye's from 200 BC, and he shut it down. Okay, Rebecki has some ungodly power for that. He has some ungodly power. But then in the 2nd round, Mayatek Orolbai was doing better. He was doing way better. Even Rebecki comfortably got that 1st round. But in the 2nd round, Mayatek Orolbai was doing much better. And then the 3rd round, Mayatek Orolbai gets dropped and Rebecki pours on so many shots. The octagon is covered in blood. They're covered in blood. I do not know how Mayatek Orolbai is still alive. He probably ate 50 shots. And then at the end of the round, he was the one pushing the pace on Mateusz Rebecki. And it's just craziness. It's just craziness. Mayatek Orolbai is not from this century. He's not from this time period. Okay, he's from a different time period. He's from a different place where they were fighting woolly mammoths, where they were fighting saber-toothed tigers. Okay, where he's not out here like he's on a different level. He serves some different durability that fight, and just the fact that he was like pushing the pace after eating all those shots in the third round, it was such a back and forth fight. And even though Mateusz Rebecki definitely got the dub in my eyes, still, it was like, oh my god, did Orolbai like edge out that round at the end because how he was pushing out the pace? But it was just crazy fight. Watching it live, I don't know how. Like both, like the octagon was covered in blood. These guys were covered in blood. It's just one of those fights, man. Just one of those fights that you're not gonna forget where you were at when you watched it. Okay, but definitely deserves a spot in the second spot on this top 5 because Mateusz Rebecki almost died. I mean, not Mateusz Rebecki. Mateusz Orolbai almost died for this. Like, he deserves the top 2. Okay, he deserves the top 2 because he put his life on the line for that. He put his life on the line, and he deserves a spot on this top 5. But let's get into the number 1 fight of the year. I think a lot of you guys saw this coming. But Esteban Ribovic versus Daniel Zellhuber. So let me just say this. Initially, in the first 2 rounds, it was very competitive, but not like a slugfest. Okay, in the first 2 rounds, they were going back and forth. You were like, oh, I could have gave that round to Esteban. Oh, I could have gave that round to Zellhuber in the first 2 rounds. But you were like, oh, it was a pretty sick fight until then. It was like an okay fight. They were going at it. And then in the 3rd round, first Zellhuber knocks down Esteban Ribovic with the elbow, nasty elbow when he was blitzing in, and like Esteban Ribovic, oh my god, you thought he was about to get finished, and then he comes back, he cracks Zellhuber with the overhand. Oh my god, he pours on so many shots to Zellhuber. Zellhuber's out there throwing the craziest head movement you ever seen. He's moving like the straw man at the car sales, if you know what I'm saying. At the I can't even think of what it's called right now. At the car lot where you're selling. I do not know how Zellhuber survived that 3rd round. They're just going at it. The 3rd round was an absolute slugfest on UFC Noche. 2 of these fights were from UFC Noche. Okay, UFC Noche was a good pay-per-view. There was a lot, except for the co-main and the main event. But we're not talking about that now. Okay, we're not talking about that now. We're talking about the best fight of the year, and I think Esteban Ribovic versus Daniel Zellhuber definitely deserves the number 1 spot on this list. Okay, even the UFC got it right. They said that Esteban Ribovic versus Daniel Zellhuber is the number 1 fight of the year, but they said Justin Gaethje versus Max Holloway was 3, and I don't agree with that. But let me know down below, what do you guys think of my top 5? Do you think these are the top 5 best UFC fights of the year? I feel like they were. I might be missing some fights on this year from this year because there was a lot of sick fights. But let me know down below what I missed. Leave a like, subscribe. I'm dropping videos like this almost every single day. I'm sorry. I know I haven't uploaded in 2 weeks, but we just had finals, and I was cooking. Okay, but we're gonna get back to it. We're gonna get back to the consistency. We're gonna be dropping these videos back to back. So subscribe. Leave a like, okay? Turn the notifications on. And I'll see you in the next one, man.